Okay. Hi Samantha, hi Lucy. We're just about to start the interview, 3 minutes time.
You alright, mate?
Yeah, I was just looking at the people joining. Samantha Joanne says, hey.
Hey.
Is that one of your friends, Vikki?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got your phone ready? Thanks.
What? That wheel thing up so you know to help face recognition.
Yeah.
You can make the screen stay on.
Hopefully. I should be, because I wrote it, I should be able to remember it. Vikki, thank you for coming on.
That's okay.
It's been a bit mad for me, like researching your life a little bit and you giving me some information, because I almost wanted to pull out the podcast because I didn't want to cry live on air. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad me and Adrian are being allowed to do this with you. We aim to be here for about an hour and a half, and we aim to go all the way through in that setting without a break. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so welcome to the Rise Above podcast. Me and Adrian have been doing this for now around 2 months, and you are our episode number 5. I believe it's 5, isn't it?
5, yeah.
It's gone quick, isn't it? And we've got another 3 or 4 lined up.
Just come across today as well, yeah, so we've just been contacted again today by someone.
Yeah. If it's all right with you, obviously we did a bit of brief before we went on air.
Yeah.
We're going to jump straight into Kai.
Yeah.
So Kai was born in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
He was born with several conditions, which I'm hoping you can explain a bit more about. I'd love to know how difficult it was and how you coped, more to the point, with his diagnosis. There's more than one, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I'd really like to know how you coped and how your day-to-day was with Kai.
Mm-hmm.
So, over to you.
Kai was born with tuberous sclerosis complex. So basically it's like non-cancerous tumours in the major organs and on the skin. So he had heart tumours, brain tumours, kidney tumours. He had autism, quite severe, epilepsy, quite a lot, scoliosis, ADHD, you name it, he had it.
Was this, did you know, obviously? Was any of this diagnosed before birth, or was it a total shock, effectively?
I had a feeling all through something was wrong, even though he was my first and I was young. I just knew something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And I went for a private scan to find out the sex, because he had his legs crossed in the 5-month scan. And they flashed up there that there was something wrong with his heart. So after weeks of backwards and forwards to Guy's Hospital, they're called rhabdomyomas, which are basically tumours in the heart. So they said then he had a very high chance of having tuberous sclerosis complex. But I was only 19, so I thought that don't happen to people like me, that happens to other people. And just pushed it to the back of my mind. And then he was born with the telltale white patches on his arm and back. But it was completely missed by Guy's, even though he was born there, to be diagnosed. So we were sent home, said he was fine.
So you got the all clear?
We got the all clear after a week of being in there, sent home, and then about 3.5 months he started having seizures. Which didn't look like seizures, so I didn't know what it was. He used to sort of throw his arms in the air and make a funny face and put his head down.
Okay.
Backwards and forwards to the hospital for 2 weeks. I was told I was young. I didn't know how to basically look after a baby, and that it was colic. Give him to my mum for a week, so I wasn't coping. I'd spoilt him. And then luckily he'd had a big seizure in the hospital as I was picking him up to go home. And he got rushed to Addenbrooke's and diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis at about 4 months of age.
How was that? After you...
My whole world ended. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I just sobbed, because every single dream you have for your child is taken. So I knew then that life was not going to be how I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, you know, making Play-Doh with him and toddler groups and swimming, and he was going to drive and...
Professional footballer.
Exactly, and none of that happened, obviously. It was more hospital appointments and,
And you and Scott were both young as well, so how did that, you know, just going to the relationship side of it?
I think it brought us closer together, because I think it either breaks you or pushes you apart, and I think we were so frightened that it pulled us both together. So I think it made us stronger at that time.
So you've gone from being on top of the world, having your baby, to in a very short period of time being told that he's got something wrong with him and he's having seizures, and we're both parents. How the hell did you cope with all that? Like, did you have a loving... Obviously you and Scott was close together at that time, that brought you forward, but did you also have a wider family members supporting you? Or?
Yeah, my family were great, but I didn't tell anyone outside of the family. I thought if I didn't say it out loud, it wasn't happening. So no one really knew until he was about 8 months, when it took me 4 months to process and accept that, you know, he was going to have a completely different life to what I'd imagined. So yeah, I didn't tell any friends. I think I pushed everyone away and just got on with it.
One thing that stands out to me in the research that we've discussed together is that he couldn't speak very much.
No.
But one word he never struggled to say was mum.
Yeah, he never lost that till the day before he died.
That tells us and everybody watching everything we need to know.
Yeah.
You as his rock. Mm-hmm. You as his right-hand woman. If you know what I mean.
He was my best friend.
He relied on you every single day of his life, and goes to show that the only word that he used to say was mum.
Yeah.
So it tells you all you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was his favourite word, and he'd shout it really loud. But as much as I was his rock, he was mine as well. So he taught me so much, that boy, that no one else ever could.
Yeah. So obviously with the seizures and the non-speech, so as he's growing up, all this stuff is coming more prominent, right? Because as a baby, you pretty much lie down, sleep, eat, poo, that's it. So as he gets into the toddler stages, did you notice more and more of what he couldn't do?
Yeah, definitely. Especially taking him to groups and stuff, I'd see babies crawling and trying to stand and talking and playing with toys, and he would just sit and rock. And he had to be like fully supported around him, because he'd face plant. You couldn't leave him for a second, because if he was very unstable for quite a while, it took him quite a while to learn to sit, and everything was delayed. And obviously there was a risk of seizures, so 1 minute he'd be fine, next he'd smash his head off the floor.
Was there any support at this time? Obviously, you're saying that you took him to toddler groups and stuff like that. Did you know what could happen, or was the diagnosis fully explained to you of what was happening, how it was, what you would be going through?
Because back then the internet wasn't major.
No.
So they literally give me, because they didn't know much either, I don't think, they gave me a A4 sheet of paper with what it could mean. So that was basically, that's what he's got, off you go. But luckily around here I did get support. So there was a few special need toddler groups I went to. So I was fully supported this end, just not with the diagnosis, because not many people, not many doctors knew what it was.
Do you think that helped in a way that you had, I know that sounds funny, but because you didn't have so much information about what was going on, what was happening, do you think that helped with the process of it, that you didn't have all the information?
Looking back, yes, because I think if I'd have gone on the internet and seen what was in store, that would have scared the life out of me. But you could only just take it day by day.
I don't know how you coped with that time of your life. It just goes to show that you're a really strong person. So as he's a toddler, he's growing up, and you're noticing more and more his seizures are more prominent, I suppose. The bigger he is, the harder he hits the floor. So you've got that as well. I've seen a couple of the photos of the damage to his head and his face when he's fallen, when he's had a seizure. Now, my son will fall over playing football and twist his ankle, and I'd be crying on the sideline going, no, my son. That's me as a person. So to put up with or to deal with something like that with Kai, it could have broke you, right? It could have really broke you.
And it did. Certain parts of his life, I did spiral and go into a dark place, but only those close to me would have known. Because I'm
like mum and stuff?
Friends mainly, yeah. So, because his seizures were really hard to deal with. As well as the injuries, he had one in the bath once, and trying to lift a 15-year-old out the bath while they're fully having a seizure, that was really hard, but I managed it. But so he had loads of hospital stays, just 24/7.
So before we get to him being 15 and a bit of a lump to get out of the bath, how was, obviously all children entitled to an education, all children get that. How was growing up for him before he got to 15? Like obviously primary school, nursery, primary school, secondary school?
We were really lucky. He went to Greenside in Stevenage. I'd done some charity work for them. They were like his second family, and he absolutely loved it, and they absolutely loved him. I'm still in contact with a lot of the teachers, and I never ever worried with him there. I felt so supported, so safe with him. And it was a little bit of time, because having obviously a child with such complex needs, even if he's not at home, you're still fighting the system, chasing appointments, fighting for more than 3 nappies a day, because that's all they allocate you, even though he had a bowel condition. It was just constant, getting medication. So it was nice to just do that without having to keep an eye on him.
Did you not worry if he had a seizure then, because they obviously knew how to deal with that? And
I think because it's in Stevenage, close to the hospital, and they were so on the ball with him. He did have seizures at school, and if it was anything, they'd blue light him and then ring me straight away.
Are they a private funded school, or is it public school?
Yeah, it's a special needs school.
By the government and all that,
It's absolutely fantastic school. I could never fault them for anything. They're amazing.
Could Kai walk and stuff?
Which was quite a big problem, because it was like having a baby in a big boy's body. So all the things that you keep out of baby's reach, pennies, buttons, anything, he could reach everything. Kettles. So it was
So you're
hard.
on constant high alert.
Yeah.
If he's on his feet, you want to be eyes on.
You couldn't just leave him to roam the house.
Yeah.
You'd have to be on it.
So, obviously, I didn't want to look down at the phone because it looks rude. On the other end of the camera, it looks really rude.
No, I just thought you'd...
thank you, Adrian. It's really difficult because I know what's coming up next. And it's hard for me to discuss it, let alone you, his mum. But I can only imagine the pain and the trauma of, even though you've lived for 15 years with this boy and you've brought him into this world and you've given him the best of you, you then one day walk upstairs and he's face down on his pillow and he's passed away. It must have been such a tragic time in your life. Mm-hmm. Was there any relief knowing that he's not going to be suffering anymore, no more fits, no more... I know it's a strange question to ask, but I feel that, when loved ones have passed away and they've had cancer and all this stuff, I feel that when they're going through all this bad stuff, it's nice for them just to slip away and not be in any pain or discomfort anymore. And
I didn't feel that, because I know it sounds horrific to people, like the seizures, but he loved life, like absolutely loved life. He never cried, he was always smiling, he was like the strongest person I've ever met in my life. So he didn't spend time suffering. Does that make sense? I know it sounds crazy to you because you're like, well, he split his eye, he's done this, but he just smiled through it.
But that's norm for him, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was normal.
He knew no different.
It's
So
the same for you as well. Whereas we're like, geez, how do you get through a day like that? Where you're like, well, that was my day, you know, that's what me and Kai did.
Yeah, so it wasn't, I was angry when he died because I always thought if he died, it would be he would always fight to stay alive. He's been on life support before, he fought, they, wanted to bring a priest in and he had a cardiac arrest and bowel burst and it was horrific and he should not have lived through that and he did. So he would fight to stay. So the fact that he died in his sleep, sort of, do you know what I mean? He had to die like that because he wouldn't have awake. He'd have thought he loved life too much.
Yeah.
Do you know, one of the pictures you sent me was of him in hospital and he was had his head bandaged and he'd just come out of brain surgery.
Literally,
and you'd said he'd just come round and he sat up eating straight away, and that was just his personality and just him.
And that is, when I'm having a bad day, I look at that photo and I think, if that boy can sit up after 5.5 hours of major brain surgery to remove tumours and the first thing he does is eat a chip and smile, I can deal with anything.
Yeah. Were they hospital chips?
Yeah.
Cool. And he was still smiling?
Yeah, he was still smiling.
Cool.
I'm sure hospital chips are lovely.
Yeah.
Great Ormond Street ones are alright.
Could be.
That's another podcast, but I can't speak highly enough of Great Ormond Street from my own personal experience.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear someone else back
they're amazing.
So at this time, obviously Scott, his dad, you and him, did you support each other or did you kind of...
When Kai died, I spiralled. Scott carried on, went to work, sorted the kids out. I was literally on suicide watch. I know that sounds horrific, but I just didn't want to be here anymore. I just thought, what is the point? Like, he was my... all of my kids are my world, but when you're a carer 24/7 for someone and you've been through so much with them, it was just... I just didn't see the point in being here. Like, everything hurt physically. My heart hurt. I just felt like I couldn't live with that physical pain, and it was tormenting as well. Like, how did he die? Because obviously the post-mortem took quite a long time, so we was without answers for quite a while.
It's difficult as well when
because you blame yourself. Did I do this? Did I not do that? And why? If it was a seizure, why didn't I hear it? And because we had all the cameras, and it wasn't. It was silent and sudden. And he wouldn't have felt a thing, but for you to find that, it's peaceful for them, but it's the most horrific thing to walk into, to find your child purple.
You touched on your other children, obviously, you brought them into it. How was it for them as well? Obviously, because you're still their mum, you know, and obviously their brother, they've lost their brother. How was it as a family environment?
It was a tough time. I think they were all young. A couple of them didn't really fully comprehend that it was forever. In fact, my youngest, every time an ambulance went past, she'd get so excited and say, Kai's home.
But that was tough.
How old was she at the time?
She was nearly 4.
So at an age that quite impressionable at that age, didn't they? 4 or 5?
Yeah. So I think we got really good support from the school. Stand By Me charity, who are amazing.
They're bloody brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, they are. They've done a lot for my family. They were fantastic.
Stand By Me, they support children that have lost relatives. So whether that be granddad, nan, mum, dad, brother, sister, auntie, uncle.
So when Brenda passed away, I think that might have been mentioned to Eve actually at school.
Yeah, Stand By Me.
I name. I just remember them saying something about an organisation that could make.
And do you know the advocates of Stand By Me are all kids that have lost somebody that they love?
2 of my children are ambassadors for Stand By Me.
Oh, amazing.
Brilliant.
Yeah, sorry, not advocates, ambassadors. Yeah, that's
they're local, Hertfordshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big shout out there.
Big shout out.
Stand By Me. So obviously you've got their support as well, Stand By Me. Was that a bit of a relief for your other children, because obviously they can get a little bit of support from people that have lived that sort of life, lost a loved one?
Because I think losing a brother so young, it doesn't really happen, does it? It's quite rare.
Yeah.
You know, you lose a nan, you lose a granddad, sometimes unfortunately you lose a parent, but a brother, it's quite unheard of, and I think it shook all of my kids, because I think they thought, well, if he can die, then I can die, or you can die, and it
becomes real, doesn't it?
It was hard, yeah, it was a hard time for all of us.
I suppose Kai was quite the heartbeat of the whole family.
Well, literally life revolved around Kai. So, yeah.
Even with his siblings, I suppose they would help you and help him.
Oh, they were amazing. I mean, my kids from the age of 2 knew how to deal with a seizure. So, yeah, they were amazing, and they knew how to sign, and which they shouldn't have, but when they see it so often,
I suppose it just comes as second nature to them. That was their brother. They accepted his disabilities and they adapted themselves around it.
Yeah.
The kids are really great in them sort of situations. I've met kids that look after their mum, like they're carers for their mum, and incredible, like what they have to deal with, and then go to school on top of that, and come home and then do some more caring and stuff like that. So I'm not even going to say. I was going to say the word, but I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Been told off for saying the same word.
Yeah, saying the same word. But I'll take my hat off to them children, your children, for supporting you, because as amazing, as strong woman as you are in front of us right now, I still can't believe that you're here talking about it, because if any of this happened to me, I don't think I'd be on camera talking to anyone.
It is. I worry that I come across as quite cold. I was saying to Adrian before, like, I'm really worried that I come across as cold, because I don't cry anymore, but I think I've done all my crying.
Yeah.
And I just think of all the good times that I had with him and try not to think of the bad. And I just believe that he was sent here for a lesson and a gift, really, and he wasn't meant to be here forever, and I sort of knew that anyway.
But like you said off camera, you said that, you know, effectively he is your strength. Do you know what I mean? The fact of what he brought and how he was is what is your strength.
Yeah.
So effectively he has had a massive impact on your life.
Yeah. For
that 15-16 years. Do you know what I mean? You know, and that's an amazing thing in itself, isn't it? Really, the fact that he's now making you evolve into a lady that you are. And
he's definitely made me who I am today. I am, you know, stronger because of him. And I've got.
Well, he was your firstborn, and you was what, 19? You said.
Yeah.
So you were still a young girl yourself at that time, and you must have matured with him growing up.
Yeah.
As he got older, you got more mature and more wise to being a mother. He obviously made you love children even more as well, because you went on to have other children after him.
That decision. So there must have been a point where you and Scott sat and went. I mean, you know, obviously you don't. It's never a plan where you sit and go, "Let's have more kids." Sometimes it just happens.
Some couples do that.
I get it. I've just
not you.
Sort of I've seen her wake up in the morning as a baby, but not with other ladies, by the way, just before I get in trouble. But was there a conscious decision to, after Kai, obviously, you know, was there a decision that shall we have more? How did that sort of happen, really?
We put everything on hold. We did, because we were young anyway, so we was in no rush for more. But we both decided that if we had the gene that gave Kai tuberous sclerosis, we would never have any more, because we couldn't give our all to 2 poorly children. Yeah. And you know, we were, I say, really lucky with Kai. And you're probably like, what? But it could have been a lot worse. He could have had no quality of life. You know, he loved life.
He lived 15 years.
Yeah.
Nearly, the day before his 16th, he passed away, but he lived for 15 years. That's an achievement in itself, like with everything that he had wrong with him and you had to deal with, to get him to nearly 16, the day before his 16th, you've achieved something, and so has he. He's fought against everything that's been thrown at him.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, the boy was a warrior.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to sit up after having brain surgery, eating chips in your bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most people would be wallowing in self-pity
Yeah.
after brain surgery. I know I would.
So you didn't actually, you say that it could have been worse, so there is levels to...
Yeah, so tuberous sclerosis, it's such a weird one because there's doctors with it.
Okay.
So, you know, you could have it and you are unaffected or slightly affected, or you could be complete the other side and you know, you can't talk, you can't walk, you can't sit up. There's so many different levels of it. So you just, when you're diagnosed with it, it's scary because you don't know.
Was there more, so you obviously know a lot about it now for experience, but is it more that you've learned along with the doctors effectively about the illness?
Meeting other families, and there's a lot of tuberous sclerosis families on my Facebook, and we're in constant contact.
Okay.
Watching their journey.
That's a support for you as well, isn't it? And them. You
Do
know,
they come to you for advice?
Used to lots, but I feel like a lot of them feel they can't now. A couple still do.
Is that because Kai's passed away?
Yeah, and they probably feel like, oh, I can't ask because it's sensitive. But I've always said, like, it's fine. Like, if I can help, then I will. So a couple still do, but a lot of them, I think I'd probably be the last because they think, oh, it's. I don't want to be insensitive, even though it's not insensitive to me.
Reach out.
Yeah, I want to. So obviously, just briefly. Kai died of SUDC. Just to explain to our viewers and me again, because I still don't know exactly what they do and what it is, but he died. That's what he died of. You found out he died of SUDC. So just to explain what that is.
He died of sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. I still don't fully understand it to this day. It is a bit like cot death, but obviously with epilepsy. So basically, the way I was explained it by my doctor, because I just couldn't get my head around it, was the brain had just told the heart to stop, and they don't feel anything, and he just literally went to sleep and didn't wake up.
So can that happen to any any seizure at any point? Because epilepsy, is, you know, from the outside looking in, is quite a
epilepsy. Yeah, you are at risk. Of SUDC.
You could just be walking down the street and...
I've met quite a few people that have lost people to SUDC, so it's not as rare as I thought it was. But yeah, there is, you can die of it if you have, well, you're at risk of dying from it if you have epilepsy, but there is a lot you can do to prevent that.
Is there any kind of medication or anything like that?
So correct medication, taking your medication correctly, not missing doses, making sure you get enough sleep. Kai obviously never missed doses, had enough sleep. I don't think anything we would have or wouldn't have done would have stopped. He had, before he died, he was in hospital quite a lot. Blue lighted, it was getting worse and worse and worse the last few months. Did you feel something was going to happen as a mum, you know? I knew. I always said to my friends that he's not going to see 16. I had that feeling from the minute he was born. And so we got to the day before and I was like, oh my God, I was wrong. Like, we've done it. He's going to do it. And then obviously, so when I did find him, I thought it was a dream. I did not believe I was in that room with that happening, because I thought, no, I just didn't believe it.
Was there a little bit of guilt with that? You know, you said you was angry, everything was spiralling. Did you go back to them comments and think, you know, have I said something I shouldn't have, or was there that anger inside?
Not for that, no, because not with that. There was a lot of guilt because we didn't know how he died. So I was torturing myself, you know, was it this, was it that? Did I do this wrong? Did I do that? And just constant going around your head, what did I do? What could I have done? What if because the week before he died, he had a really bad virus, and he was doctor was out, antibiotic. I slept with him all week, and then he had a good 3 days, and that night I left him on his own.
Okay.
So that was the first night I didn't sleep with him. So I punished myself a lot for that. But the paramedic said to me, even if you were next to him, you'd have woke to him dead and you wouldn't have even known. There would have been no noise, you'd have just woke to that scene.
So there would have been no noise, you said? So you wouldn't have taken a last breath, you wouldn't have heard...
No, so
you wouldn't have heard nothing?
When I found him, I walked in his room and the side of his face was completely purple. His face was sunk in the pillow. So I ran over because I thought he's having a seizure, because he was in his little comfort position with his little legs up and his bum in the air, but face down. And I ran over and put my arms and dragged him out the bed to give him CPR. And as I did, he gasped. So I thought, thank God, I've got to him.
It was the air in his lungs.
It was the air coming out, yeah. Because I kept saying he was breathing. They said, no, it was the air.
So that's a bit you didn't tell me. I didn't realise that you tried giving him CPR as well.
Yeah, until I see his face and realised it was too late, yeah.
As a parent, that's so shocking, upsetting. Let's talk about his funeral, because funerals are to celebrate life.
100%.
They're not to grieve, they're not to moan about this and that. They're to celebrate the individual that's just passed. I've seen videos of his funeral and I've seen pictures, lots of. His funeral looked like you went all out.
Yeah, we did.
White horses, horse-drawn cart. You know, his favourite singer was Sam Smith. Like, you had Sam Smith playing in the room there as well. How was his funeral for you? Did you get everything you needed out of that funeral? Or?
Yeah, so his funeral, because my children were so young, I didn't want everyone in black with scary boxes and black cars and everything all sad. Although it is horrific and sad, I didn't want it to feel like that for them. So I tried to get everyone to wear something white or whatever they're comfortable in. White doves, we released doves, white coffin with all their photos round, just as unscary as possible. And then afterwards we had a massive celebration party with a disco and children's entertainers and all his favourite food. And it's crazy because people come up to me and they said, I don't want to say it because it sounds awful, but that was the best funeral. The saddest, but the loveliest and the most fun at the end as well. And that's what I wanted for my kids.
A celebration of life as such.
Yeah, but right up until that morning, I didn't want to go. Yeah.
So how was planning that then? If you didn't want to go,
my friends.
Obviously, you was at your bottom.
Yeah.
You know, how was planning that and getting
my
through
friends. That? If it wasn't for my friends, yeah.
You keep mentioning your friends. Is there any friend in particular you want to say thank you to live on the podcast?
I've got so many of them, like Becky, Ria, Jodie. There's just so many. Hayley, Nicola, obviously. There's just so many of them that have just, Amy, they've all been there for me, dropped everything and at my side, and still to this day.
Girls, if you're watching, thank you for supporting Vikki. Well done. Yeah, the funeral to me looked moving.
It was amazing.
It looked. I mean, I even see in one of the clips I see smiling. I did see smiling. It wasn't all tears and cuddles. I did see some smiling, and it's great to see that at a funeral because it means you are celebrating the life of that individual. And Kai had a lot to celebrate about.
Yeah, he did.
You had a lot to celebrate for him, by all accounts. I never met him, unfortunately, but.
Believe it or not, you're not going to remember this, but I remember me and my children go to Yarmouth a lot. My two eldest, me and my partner Marianne, we went to, and you know the American Diner?
Oh yeah.
We actually sat with you, not with you, but in that same American Diner.
Oh really?
It must have been, I don't know how...
That was his favourite diner, that was.
I remember being in there, I said to Marianne, I remember still, and do you know, the reason why it stays with me is because normally when you go in a restaurant with young kids, it's manic. You know that. But he was so good at the table, do you know what I mean? And I remember thinking, as a disabled child, I knew Scott, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't come over or anything like that because you were in your your family and that, and I was so amazed at how well behaved he was, effectively.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that horribly, like disabled people aren't well behaved, but obviously they're more difficult, aren't they?
Yeah.
Especially in that environment.
He was it sounds crazy, but he was an easy boy to look after.
Yeah. He was
as long as
brilliant.
he was fed, had his bath, had his cuddles, he was quite happy. If you didn't give him his bath on time or his food, he might have a little wave in your face. That was his way of saying, right, I've had enough now of waiting for you. But other than that, he was a really easy, probably the easiest out of my 5.
What was his favourite food?
Chips.
Chips.
McDonald's.
McDonald's chips.
As soon as he see the big M, he would get so excited, he didn't know what to do with himself, to the point where you had to wheel him in there and hold his arms, because he'd be trying to grab people's food on the way in, because he just couldn't wait for
Sounds
his
like
order.
my kind of guy.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh, chips.
Mine's
Yeah.
KFC though, to be
Is it?
Yeah,
I prefer
McDonald's.
KFC chips, actually.
That was his
Other
favourite.
takeaways are available, and we're not sponsored by McDonald's or
It's sponsored
KFC.
by any fast food network.
Just putting that out there. But a boy after my own heart. I love fast food, and I like McDonald's as well. So boy after my own heart.
Yeah.
We do need to move on.
Yeah.
And we do need to touch on the other reason why you're here. If you're still okay to carry on.
Yeah, it's fine.
So obviously Scott was Kai's dad.
Yeah.
And at this time he'd passed away. You were going through your own battles. In fact, let me just take a reverse because I've missed a segment. Your grief that you had for losing Kai, you put into not 1, not 2, but 3 books. Was there a light bulb moment for you to go, do you know what, I'm sick of being down in the dumps, I'm going to put my grief into words and I'm going to write a book?
Well, the first 2, I did 1 when he was alive, because it started as a diary, and it was just about life as a special needs mum, and people were like, you need to do something with that might help people. So I did.
And what was that one called, Vikki?
Whenever I Fall.
Whenever I Fall. So that one was whilst he was alive?
Yeah,
And
and
it was
then people wanted another, so I did After the Fall, and that was it. I said no more, and then obviously he died, and I felt like people wanted to know but didn't want to ask. So I thought, if I write it and all the money goes to charity, good comes from something awful, and especially those that followed his story, because he was quite big on Facebook, you know, that people loved him and still do. They still always mention him or send me things that remind them of him, and so I felt like I owed it to people to...
Was writing the first book and the second, was that your way of a little bit of an escape as well?
Yeah,
Getting
it's
your
therapy.
feelings and,
Right, yeah, real big therapy. Like writing his 3rd book after he died helped me more than talking to a counsellor.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I really should have read the books before we did the podcast.
Like I say, like I said off air, I went into Iceland's earlier. I'm sure she's watching. She said she'd be watching, and she offered to give me your book. So I know even people in town, Letchworth Town Centre, have got your books. So I know that they're out there. So that's maybe something that we will need to do. Look into that.
Yeah, definitely, and I will read them as well, because I think they'll be interesting for me to read, especially after the podcast.
Yeah.
Was the 3rd book, when you said you was obviously after the funeral and everything, and sort of the dust had settled, for want of a better word, was the 3rd book was that what pulled you out, or was there a moment, like, you know, everyone's got a story about, obviously, when I was drinking, or Shane's mental health and stuff like that. Was there a moment that you said, no, this has got to...
Yeah, there was, and I remember it quite vividly. So I think it had been 2-3 months. I just laid in bed. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't really talk. Anything that come out of my mouth was just a scream. I just stared at the wall all day. I just did not want to be here, and I resented everyone for making me be here, friends, Scott, everyone. So I just stayed in the bedroom, and then one day I was just laying in there, basically just dead, just staring at the ceiling, and I heard all my kids laughing, and something in me just was like, this is not fair. Like, they need you, they're still here, he's not, sort it out. So I did. I got up that day, had a shower, sorted the house out and started.
But it was a proper moment for the family.
It was, yeah. I just from that moment on, I was like, right, I'm going to do the school run tomorrow. And
let alone for yourself, but
Yeah.
for the family as well, do you know what I mean?
So my kids have saved me so many times. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here now.
You were just saying that you got up and had your shower and then the next day you're going to do the school run. How was doing that school run? Because
Horrific.
I'm going to touch on this. My kids go to the school on this estate, or my child does now. The rest of them are all grown up. I hate walking into the playground. I hate it with a vengeance.
Yeah.
I'm either really early to grab him first or really late to grab him last. I'm never there to speak to anyone. I hate it. But I can imagine if I'd lost a child or the child was ill or whatever, then when you go into that playground, they'll all be like, oh, how's They all want to be your friend. And it's like, hang on a minute, you didn't want to fucking know yesterday, but now all of a sudden you do. How was that?
Nosy as well.
Yeah, but how was that? Because
It was hard.
school environment playgrounds are horrible.
Oh, mate, I can't stand it.
Yeah, I still don't really do the school run to this day, so I'll sit with my AirPods in the car just because of what's happened with Scott. It's really difficult to... It's fine to talk about, but when it's over and over again with a different parent, it becomes quite draining. And I know a lot of them mean really well and they actually want to know how you are.
It's really rude as well, because you've got to the point of like, I'm fed up with it.
And again, I probably look cold. They're like, how are you? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. And they're like, oh God, like we're waiting for her to crash now. Or I'm actually the best I've been in a very long time.
What, now?
Now. And I think people find that hard to believe with everything that's happened, but I couldn't feel more better in myself than ever, really.
But that's where you should be. That's where they should be understanding that again is Kai's legacy.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
fact of what he has built you into, effectively, how you've had to be as a person is. You thinking I'm going to crash is a bit disrespectful to Kai. It's actually what Kai's done for me.
Yeah.
That is the reason why I'm like this.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's an amazing thing as well.
It's his gift, yeah.
So, exactly. You know.
Yeah, it's parting gift. So we've touched on pretty much everything to do with Kai. Obviously, Scott, we was going to go into it, and if you're watching the full podcast, you realise that I messed up a little bit. But we are now going to go into the Scott story. Losing a child for you and losing a child for him, you both dealt with your grief in different ways, or not dealt with your grief, as the case may be. Your relationship, as far as I'm aware, like from what you've said, you started drifting apart. And then his mental health went from grieving his son to hearing voices and basically not the norm. So you realised that there was something seriously wrong. And you've drifted further and further away from each other. He's kind of pushed you out as well, probably, and things like that. But tell us about Scott and about his mental health, about what you had to deal with him when you was together, before you broken up, because I think it would be interesting for everyone to realise the whole story, not just snippets of it. So to start at the beginning, so you've lost Kai. How long after was it that Scott started going downhill?
I'd probably say he did better than me, but he hid it. I think this is where it all...
Us men do. We hide it.
So obviously I crashed. I you know, it was very obvious to anyone that saw me that I just had no interest in being here. Obviously pulled myself up. It took me about 1.5 years, 2 years. And then once I had sorted myself out, he sort of started to decline. So he drifted from me a bit. Just all of a sudden thought he was fat, ugly, just started to worry about things that he didn't before. Self-esteem was low.
Sorry, Vikki, can I just say, you just said that you pulled yourself out after 2 years or so, and then he went downhill. Do you think
maybe I didn't notice it,
But no, I wasn't going to say that actually. Do you think a part of him has gone, I'm going to be strong, because you were in a dark place? So he was battling. And then as soon as you're more with it and back to like proper Vikki, he's then broke.
Probably.
Do you think that's what's happened?
Definitely.
Because he had to stay strong for you and the kids, and then all of a sudden you're back being strong again.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, I can let it go now.
Yeah. Definitely.
I suffer mental health, and you know, as do a lot of people that we've spoke to and other people that I've worked with. And you have your good days and your bad days, but ultimately that trauma up here and carrying it around in your heart will ultimately grab hold of you at some point.
Yeah. It
has to me. So I understand that. So I think looking at it from an outside in, you said you were better to go back to normal, or as normal as you can be, and then he's then dropped his guard and started deteriorating.
Was there any point before? Was there any signs before? Did this really just genuinely manifest itself after?
I think he always had some sort of mental illness underlying. Yeah. And I think it was just covered because we were busy. We had Kai. We didn't have time to worry about anything. But yeah, I do. Looking back now, because hindsight's amazing, isn't it? Of course. I do think, there was definitely something. He never had confidence. He was very socially awkward. Wouldn't go to social events or in a shop. It was quite a big deal. Which people would be like, what? Because he was loud and had ADHD. He was funny. Yeah. But I think it's always been there, and it just erupted.
No, I agree. I do agree.
So you was together, all told, before you split up, how long?
25 years altogether.
25 years.
Yeah.
You've been with that man 25 years, and all of a sudden he's showing certain bits and pieces that would say mentally not right.
Yeah.
So things like you just said, that he didn't like himself, and blah, blah, blah. We all have down days like that. But was this constant, or was it just occasionally?
Yeah, it was constant. And just become very depressed. So started overeating. Just didn't want to do, he didn't want to do much throughout our 25 years anyway, but got worse. Didn't even want to go anywhere. Even to work, we used to argue a lot because he'd say, I'm not going in today. He just couldn't face people. So it went from a depression to quite scary after that, because he started to hear and see voices. He thought people were against him, out to get him.
That's schizophrenic traits, right?
Well, yeah, I always believed it was psychosis. But
did he take drugs? Did he?
No, he took drugs when he was young, but not when we were
So you
together.
can't call it drug psychosis,
No.
like mental health doctors always say, oh, it's drug psychosis, he's a crackhead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if he didn't take drugs, so it couldn't have been drug psychosis, so it was proper psychosis. Yeah. This is a mental illness that needs to be addressed by the professionals. You can't take a tablet to get over that.
Yeah, no. But was Scott aware of this to a certain degree, or is it more you saying to Scott, what?
He'd have days where he completely agreed with everything you said. Like, oh my God, yes, like I am ill, I'm going to get help tomorrow. And then the next day he'd wake up and be like, there's nothing wrong with me, it's you. You're just trying to get rid of me. Yeah. So it was paranoia. It was really hard work because you didn't know what side you were going to get from day to day. So one day he'd be crying, like, I'm going to get help. I don't want to lose my family. The next it would be, nothing wrong with me, it's you. So it was quite hard.
Was he horrible with it as well? Like, was he like nasty?
He could be, yeah. He could be. He just flipped from the Scott I knew to someone completely different.
Because you've been with this man a long time.
Yeah.
Like, you think you would know that person inside and out, warts and all, bad habits, good points, bad points. And now all of a sudden and you've both lost a lot in life, and you've had to deal with a lot in life. Now all of a sudden he's against you, and he's out and out being horrible to you, and his mental health's deteriorating. At what point did you say, no more, me and you need to, because you said to me that you separated a few times.
Yeah.
So what point did you separate the first time? Did it get to a point where you're like, do you know what, I'm not doing this anymore?
Yes, it did. So it was about 3 and a bit years ago that he went and stayed with his family, saw the kids and stuff, and then he'd come back And I'd think, okay, he's on medication, not for psychosis, but he's on medication, you know, he's...
So did you go and get help?
Yeah, he was trying.
What was that medication? Was it antidepressants and anxiety stuff?
Yeah.
Easy, I have some...
Doctor prescribes that willy-nilly.
Yeah, literally antidepressants. Then it just started to go down again, even worse than before, and so I made him move out. Went back to his family, and I think that happened another time, and then it got to a point where I was just like, I can't, it's not fair on the kids, I can't keep doing it. And I think at that point I realised that although I'd always have love for him, I wasn't in love with him because damage had been done.
He wasn't making it very easy for you to love him anymore either, was he? Let's be honest.
So it was really tough because we still were friends up until the day he died, so...
Yes, and that's difficult as well, because like you say, when you've been with someone for 25 years, you know that what Scott's about, you know what kind of gentleman he is, you know what kind of dad he is, what kind of partner he is. So then to have this mental health take over and change him so much, that's so difficult to have to witness.
Yeah, it was
and I'm
hard.
sure it's difficult for his family and him as well.
Really hard,
But there's so much trauma going on. You know, it must have been so hard to make that decision.
It was hard. It was really hard, but I think when the suicide attempt started, I had to put the kids first and say I can't, because as a family we could not find anyone else dead in our home, and I knew it was going to go to I knew that he was going to end his life, and I knew I'd find him or the kids would find him, and that would destroy us. So I had to make a decision there and then. That was it. Was
that literally, like you say, was that again the defence side of it of we can't, you know, we have to build a bridge effectively here?
It was, because there's a point, isn't there, where you have to choose yourself and your kids or him, and my kids needed me, and I had to choose me and them.
Were the kids aware of his mental state, or?
I think even me today still struggles with it. I think they do, especially, you know, younger ones. Like, how did my strong dad go from funny and loving to sitting in a chair, not wanting to go out and not wanting to see anyone?
And that's what the message of Rise Above is. We're trying to help people understand that, and us understand that. It's a journey for us, again, as we keep saying. It's that understanding for siblings, for partners, for mums, dads, whoever, to try and understand and us of that psyche effectively. How do you get like that? How can we stop that and be proactive instead of reactive? And again, you still to this day still don't quite understand.
Still don't know.
And that's so frustrating. Surely.
One of the bits of information that you fed me a couple of days ago when we were doing some research really struck me, actually. There was a couple of bits, but one of the bits that I haven't stopped thinking about is Scott attempted to take his own life by taking how many ibuprofen?
It was 110 ibuprofen and 10 cocodamol.
So he attempted to take his own life by taking that medication. He's then obviously gone into hospital unwell, needing a stomach pump or whatever. And the nurse, when you told me this, I was in such shock. The nurse has then turned around to him and said, people always think that it's ibuprofen that kills you, but it's not, it's paracetamol. So, one, why would you give the advice on how to kill yourself? And two, I think that was a bit of a wrong thing to say to Scott, because the next thing he done was what?
2 weeks later he took 120 paracetamol and 10 cocodamol again, I think it was.
But he wouldn't have done that if the nurse, or might not have done that if the nurse didn't mention the paracetamol. He might have tried it with ibuprofen again and failed again. But that obviously failed as well. So you got him he got himself into the hospital in time to get the treatment that he needed.
And we wasn't together at these points, but I begged them to section him, absolutely begged them, and my friends went to the hospital with him and begged him.
Legally, his partner still?
So apparently that doesn't matter these days, it's them. So they would not section him.
So even though you know him better than anyone, obviously other than his mum maybe, or his dad and family, but obviously you know him next
I had
to
no right to section him.
Even though you were his wife, effectively.
The police and doctors can section. I can't remember what the section is. But
they're the people that don't know him.
Even the police wouldn't section him when he was found up a tree.
Yeah, that was again, 3 o'clock in the morning, he was found up a tree by the police. And then what you said to me was that, that the police had smashed his van up because they thought he was inside his van taking an overdose. When he wasn't.
He was
was
2
sat up
hours
a
away
tree.
from home, went missing, 2 hours away from home, turned his phone off. So he lived in Norfolk, he travelled all the way back down here, gone to Ickleford and was in a tree. Police found his van, because I think they had helicopters and stuff out looking for him, because they did the ANPR, followed his van. And smashed all his windows because they thought he could be in the back, because previous he did it in the van. And he wasn't. So they impounded his vehicle, took him into the station, gave him a medical. I then spoke to them and begged them, you need to section him, because the next time I speak to you, you're going to have blood on your hands. He will kill himself. This is not a cry for help. This is serious. And they said, we haven't got power to do that. He's been assessed. He's fine. And they charged him for the privilege of smashing the windows and let him drive all the way back home to Norfolk.
With no windows in his van?
I think, with no windows in his van. Drove all the way back to Norfolk in that state of mind.
Do you...
And that was
before
3
you
weeks
go
later,
on,
he died. He killed himself.
Before you go on, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. There's a grown-ass man
2
up
hours
a tree,
away from home.
2 hours away from home, with previous for attempting his own life.
2 previous attempts.
And that is not enough to section a man.
That wasn't enough. Apparently he was...
He's just an avid tree climber, was he?
Because he said he was fine in the medical, he was fine.
I'm sorry, we can all lie and we can all say that we're fine.
But he was terrified of being sectioned because he thought that we were all against him, and so that was his fear, obviously.
So by all accounts then, Vikki, he's telling the doctors and the police and everybody else involved what they want to hear because he is scared of being sectioned.
Yeah.
Flabbergasted.
Do you think, I might get some abuse for this, I don't know if it's that, but do you think if he was a lady that they'd have done it?
Maybe. I don't think men get taken seriously.
Do you think if they'd have found a lady like that,
yeah,
they
probably.
would have...
Maybe.
Up a tree, 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours away from
I just don't believe they
home.
would have. And that's not I did get any ladies or anything like that, but just the way it is seen for men is you're just being an idiot, you're just being...
Man up.
Yeah, man up, what's wrong with you, sort yourself out. But whereas I think if you found... I'm not sure a lady would do that, in fairness, but if you found a lady like I genuinely believe they'd section her.
Yeah.
I don't think they would let her go.
So he had three previous suicide attempts, 3 medicals. One of them I managed to speak to the people and said, you need to section him. They gave us an option, so he did not want to be sectioned. So they said we can give him an 8-week, I can't remember what it's called, but basically intervention at home. It's like sectioning, but it's from the comfort of where he was staying with his family. He agreed to that. I said, all for it. He would miss appointments, not answer his phone. The medication they gave him was a joke. It was depression tablets, and they diagnosed him with PTSD. It wasn't
PTSD because of losing Kai?
Yeah, but it could have been a bit of that, but it wasn't that. And I told him this, but so the 8-week, crisis therapy was useless, absolutely useless.
And that's I think what the message you're trying to get across and that we're trying to get across about how the support network is not necessarily the individuals involved, it's more the system.
They had in his notes that he had autism, suspected he was just about to be diagnosed with that. He had ADHD, he was severely dyslexic, and they gave him a diary to fill out and told him to make a sensory box if he was feeling,
Yeah, I know you can't read and write, buddy, but here's a book, you need to write some stuff.
And that made him feel even worse, because they gave him a diary, and he thought, again, because his self-esteem was so low, he's like, well, I can't write him that, I don't know. And I was just like, oh my God, you're just like banging your head against a brick wall.
And this is our biggest frustration. Hence, you know, again, like we spoke about, a lot of Rise Above is about our journey, but it's also about trying to raise awareness. I mean, I don't know what to say, if I'm honest. I'm still going back to the fact that he was in a tree, caught at 3 in the morning, and was still not, you know. And then you're just saying to me, "I'll go and put something fluffy in the box if you feel bad." I just don't believe that we'd do that for a lady.
They offered him group sessions, and he was obviously did not want to see Pete. He was very paranoid at this point. Did not leave the house. And because he refused group sessions, they said, "Well, we've got nothing for you. There's no individual one-on-one."
Which I know myself is bullshit, because there is one-on-one counselling sessions and there's one-on-one mental health appointments.
I think the waiting list was so long for anything like that.
Is that funding as well, then?
Yeah, probably. It's all money, isn't it?
As you know, like I used to run Feed Up Warm Up, and we deal with mental health on a daily basis. And in the end, I got so fed up with waiting for for NHS mental health team, as one I think they're called. I then went into private therapy for people and pay through the nose for it privately. But sometimes you have to do that because there's no other way.
No.
You don't. If you're suicidal, like Scott was, you can't wait 7 or 8 weeks for an appointment.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm at the top of a bridge. All right, come in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday.
Yeah.
At 3 o'clock. You ain't going to go, okay, I'm going to stop killing myself now. I'm going to go to that appointment in 2 weeks' time, and then maybe it'll work.
And I mean, the sheer
failed.
amount of tablets he took, it wasn't a cry for help. It was, he meant business. It wasn't, 10, 20. It was in the hundreds.
Another thing that gets me there is twice he's had a failed suicide attempt with pills. Yeah. So we'll give him pills to help him.
Yeah. And
so surely now, speaking out loud, the logic in that is that, how have we got to that? How do we feel that someone that's taking their life with pills, or trying to take their life with pills, we'd give them more to be able to fix that problem? Where is the logic in that?
I know.
It's just, for me, it's just lazy.
Yeah,
as a system, they don't want to deal with it.
No, they don't.
They don't want to deal with it. Whether it's man or woman, we're focusing more on men because obviously the men side of it is a massive issue.
Yeah.
But again, it's for ladies just as much as it is for men. But how are we as a society allowing that to happen to our sons, our daughters, our children? Effectively. I'm flabbergasted by it. I didn't know about the trigger thing. I didn't.
So that happened on the 1st of August. And the last conversation I had, I said, "You will have blood on your hands. He will be dead. The next time we speak, he'll be dead." And the next time we spoke was the 7th of September when he actually hung himself.
So obviously, I know Scott. Do you know what I mean? Especially from when we were young. I know his brothers. Hearing that is really tragic. And I didn't, at the time, obviously we didn't know. He used to come to mine. My lady said he was very talkative when he came round. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I didn't even realise you knew him till today.
We Westbury boys.
Don't say that, mate. You're on Jackman's, you'll get lynched.
I was a bit both. That's why I'm alright, you see, because my mum was a bit.
I was a bit of both as well.
She loved moving about, so I spent a lot of my years on the Jackmans and Westbury, and I have family on both, so I was sort of interbreed as such. I was quite lucky. But I knew him, and again, like I said to you, he used to ride motorbikes and stuff like that. He was a proper lad.
Yeah.
Me and his brothers would be playing football or whatever, or the lads all round would be playing football up the Westbury Rec, and you'd hear him over the fields on the crosser or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean? So it's so sad to hear that it got to that situation. And I can't even imagine what it'd be like for you, his family, and his children. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's been a major struggle for the kids, obviously, losing their brother and then their dad, both by things that they still don't understand. Yeah. Even I don't understand, so I don't know how they do. His family, it's been really tough for as well.
It was his mum that found him as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, his dad found him, and his mum walked in as well. For me, I think I'm just glad that he's not suffering anymore, because he was such a shadow of himself, and obviously being with him that long, he's always said to me, if I'm suffering, not mentally because we didn't know that was going that way, but if I'm ever suffering, pull the plug. I want to be how I am now.
I think we've all said that to our loved ones.
Exactly. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
the comfort I take is that he's not in pain anymore, because he was in so much pain.
By all accounts, he was in a lot of pain.
A lot of pain, yeah.
And he was crying out for help. And the system's failed him, Vikki.
I've got text messages on my phone where he said, no one's called me today. This is why people kill themselves.
And this is exactly what we're trying to get across. I mean, his family must be so frustrated as well, you know.
Have you still got a relationship with his family?
Yeah, I've got a good relationship with his brothers and his mum and dad, yeah.
A good bunch. His
Yeah, they
brother's a
are,
good bunch.
yeah.
Got a lot of time for them.
And again, it brings it down to, you've buried your son. Now Scott's mum has buried him.
Yeah, so I
both mothers have lost your sons. So I suppose that would bring you a bit closer together as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I can, I completely relate to any feeling she's going through. It's but different circumstances. I suppose taking your own life is completely different to dying from something. So I can imagine the emotions are completely different as a mother.
Let's be real about it. There'll be people around still now, and people maybe watching, that don't understand when you take your own life. They feel it's selfish, they feel it's and it is to a certain degree, and they are, but they don't realise what the mental turmoil that they're absolutely going through. For someone to do that to themselves,
I don't even think they want to kill themselves, they just don't know how to stay. They don't know how to stay. So, and no one helps them to stay, so they're like, right, this is all I've got left.
There's no way, I believe, there's no way that a man or lady would stand there with children, knowing they've got children, and make that conscious, sane decision to leave their children. I just can't, from my point of view. So I believe that Scott must have been in such a place where they feel that they're better off that way. And if you're saying that we can't support people like that, or the system is saying we can't support people like that, where are we as a human race? How have we got to that situation?
The thing is though, Ade, Scott and Vikki, Scott was probably thinking at the time, yes, it could be a coward's way, or it could be this, or it could be that, but he didn't want himself dragging his kids and his family down.
He did say that, yeah. He did say before when he'd done it, like, you'd all be better off without me.
Yeah, of course.
And I think because there was no way back for me and him as well, that was hard for him. But
to be together that length of time, and then for that to be removed from him, and obviously it was your decision and not his. But it was the right one for you and the kids.
Yeah.
And
I think
can only imagine.
He even agreed. I just don't think he wanted to accept it.
No, there's always that, of course.
Yeah.
When you get into that situation, again it's acknowledging that you have probably run its course. Do you know what I mean? You've gone through so much together. Yeah. Like you said, Kai probably made you stay together probably longer.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Do you know
probably.
what I mean? The fact that you had that, and then when Kai went, it was suddenly the vacuum had gone that was keeping you so close together, and it was like, well, what have we actually got left now without Kai? It's like relationships when the children leave home and you're 50, 55, 60, a lot of relationships end at that time because it's, well, what have we actually got now?
Yeah.
What do we do now? What do we talk about? And you find that you're actually just existing together and not actually in love. So that realisation is always really tough when it comes about. So that would have been really hard for both of you, and Scott as well, I suppose, that the fact that he'd lost Kai, he'd lost you, he'd lost, in his mind, probably his children as well, do you know what I mean? Because he'd have to move out and start again. And that's on top of dealing with probably mental turmoil.
Obviously, as a man, we want to provide for our children. We want to give our partners the loving life that they deserve. at that time of his life, he wasn't able to do any of that because he hated himself.
Yeah.
Now, we already know this because we spoke about it so many times, but you can't love anyone or anything if you look in the mirror and hate yourself.
Yeah.
Now, that's proven for me. You know, I've had to have time out of work. I've left work again now. Myself personally, if I have a day where I look in the mirror and go, fucking hate you, like, I hate what my life has become, I'll lock myself away, draw the curtains, and then open them at 2 to 3 when the wife comes home from work. So that's my way of dealing with it. But in his mind, he couldn't see a way of getting you back. He couldn't see a way of getting the kids back in his life and
His business.
and his business.
Yeah.
You know, he's had all this stuff going on, and he's trying to battle. The system's failed him.
Yeah.
The police have failed him. The nurse in the thing have failed him. Everybody that's been involved in Scott's life whilst he was going through that crisis has failed him. Now, the only person that I can see, obviously his mum and dad have been there and blah, 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 they haven't failed him, but you fought and fought and fought for him in respect to try and get him help and try and get him sectioned and blah, blah, blah. I feel that the people that have let him down the most, if they ever do see this, they've got blood on their hands.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's their fault that the situation has ended the way it has.
Yeah.
Nobody could have helped Kai stay alive.
No.
But people could have helped Scott stay alive.
Yeah, they could have, and my children would still have a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to, and Scott's family have to explain that to your children every day when they keep asking the same questions. You know, and when a memory comes up of Scott or a moment happens with Scott on his birthday or Christmas or memories, they have to keep living that.
Yeah.
And I believe that the system has to pay for that.
Yeah.
Not to the point of, you know, like anarchy or something. What I'm saying is that they're responsible for that. And we need to change that, especially from a male point of view.
I think the system needs to take ownership of that as well. I think they need to accept that.
They have reached out to me to come and meet me, but a sorry is not going to bring my children's dad back, so it's irrelevant. There's no sorry is going to do anything.
When you say they've reached out, who's reached out?
I can't remember his name now. I think it's Chris Thompson.
What associate is that from?
Norfolk, mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, he's reached out, but yeah, I'm not feeling it.
No, again, it's that reacting instead of being proactive.
Yeah.
Again, it's after the fact. Yeah, maybe we did get it wrong. We can't keep saying this about our young men.
Well, I put a complaint in, I don't know if it was about 7 weeks ago. I'm still yet to hear back. So
they can't even acknowledge your complaint?
No.
Yeah, even just someone getting back to you and saying, look, we want to look into it. There is a process. There is a way of doing it. They're not even offering that. They're just literally ignoring that, like they did Scott.
Yeah.
And think it's going to go away.
It won't go away because I'm too much of a fighter to let it go away, and my children are hurting.
And you're fighting for your kids,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you're always fighting
so
to the last breath.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep fighting.
100%.
And in fairness, Scott deserves that.
Yeah.
The Scott of 25 years, if you see what I mean. The Scott that Scott and mum and dad and brothers and, you know, out there, that they deserve that as well for Scott. And friends, I'm sure, out there that are just as upset deserve that for Scott, and he deserves it. And the only way we're going to change people's opinions or people's way of dealing with it is by doing this. It's by challenging.
Yeah.
Everything over history, if you don't challenge it, nothing changes. And there's too many male suicides.
Yeah, I think we did a little bit of research, but 4 out of 5 suicides every time is men.
Wow.
Obviously women do take their own life, you know, we're not here to say that they don't, but 4 out of 5 suicides is men, so 1 to 5.
Yeah, what was it? So 80% of suicides in Hertfordshire are male.
Oh yeah, that's in Hertfordshire stat, yeah.
Just in
shocking.
Hertfordshire.
That is shocking.
80%.
But I think it's because us men, I mean, me more so, I've realised that I can't do that, but we bottle things up.
Yeah.
And I always explain to my clients when I'm talking to a client about their mental health, it's like you get a 2 litre bottle of Coke and you shake it.
Yeah.
My mental health is me take the lid right off. I don't let the gas out and then release the lid. So I've shaken the bottle in as much as I can and then just take the lid straight off and I explode. That's my mental health. Whereas with proper mental health procedures, you take the gas out, let the gas out, let the gas out, go a bit of counselling, do this, group therapy if you can, this, that, and then by doing that, you're letting the gas out. And I've had trauma therapy recently, actually, last year. I had 18 hours in the end. And every single session I started was venting. So I'd vent for the first 10 minutes of my hour session to my counsellor, and that's me letting gas out. And that's what she explained to me what it was. And she was like, just let a little bit out, little bit at a time, and then eventually you can take the lid off and pour a glass, can't you?
Yeah.
So that's to me, I take that metaphor, and I use it on my daily life.
But it's again having them tools, and you've obviously got into the system of the support. Scott didn't have that, of the support of someone giving him a metaphor like that of it's okay. Yes, you are struggling. Yes, you have got some issues, but we're here to help you, and we will support you. You are not alone. You are not weird. You're not a wimp. You're not, because we're supposed to be cavemen, aren't we?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't matter how much the world evolves.
Yeah, you are. You're not meant to cry.
It doesn't matter how you look at it. We're supposed to provide. We're supposed to protect. End of. It doesn't. That's the world we live in. Do you know what I mean? Of course. And we put that on ourselves. Don't get me wrong. Women are strong and much stronger than men in areas. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, Buck, do you want me to get up?
Yeah, I wanted you to carry on talking as well.
Yeah, I can't do two things at once. See, that's what women can do. We can't. But that's my point. Is this societal pressure on men to be a caveman, to provide, to make sure that ladies and the family are cooked for, take dinner on the table, make sure that ladies feel protected, make sure that our children feel protected, that we can't suffer, we can't. And sometimes, unfortunately, ladies believe that as well, which isn't wrong. We should be able to do that, but we should also be able to let our ladies know or our families know that, I'm not feeling it today.
Yeah, but I'm guilty of not doing that now. Like, I'll have a bad day and Andrew will be like, have you had a good day? And I'm like, yeah, babe, yeah, great.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Even now,
I'm guilty of that now.
I'd still do it. Marianne's probably watching this and she's probably waiting till you get home. So she goes through it as well, bless her. Do you know what I mean? She knows what I'm like at times. And it must be difficult. I'm not sure if you've got a partner now, I don't know. But
we were going to come to that.
Oh, sorry, Rob. I'll stop.
It's all right.
I was leading too far, wasn't I?
Phone's gone off again. I don't need it anyway. So yeah, as Adrian just mentioned, partner.
Yeah.
You've got a new partner now.
I have, yeah.
I want to ask, and he might watch this, in fact he probably will, or if he's not watching already, was there a little bit of doubt about getting into another relationship? Because you was with Scott for a long time, it ended badly. That's enough to scare anyone away, isn't it? You physically going, I don't want to put myself in that position again.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you've had a lot of hurt, Vikki.
I have.
And a lot of turmoil, Kai, and even before his death, some might say that is turmoil as well, because you've had to deal with certain bits. Was there a point in your life, you started talking, or somebody might have shown an interest, and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, guards up?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think we went on our first date and I just went blah and told him everything. Because I thought
warts and all?
Yeah.
If he stays now, he's a keeper.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he didn't,
and he
stayed. So I thought, I'm in trouble now because I liked him. And it was the first person I'd really liked. So yeah, it was hard, but...
It's got to be... It's probably difficult in his eyes as well. Like, flip the coin around.
Yeah.
Because you have had a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. And he obviously liked you and he wanted another date, hopefully. So he's obviously accepted what you've said and gone, do you know what? I'm going to go again. I'm going to have another date.
I know, he must be.
What kind of... it tells me... I don't know the man. I don't even know his name. But it tells me that he's a keeper, because if he wasn't, he would have ran.
Oh,
as soon as you blurted out, like you said on your first date, he would have gone, nah, I ain't doing that.
I think if someone would have blurted out what I did, I would have run.
To be fair, there's a lot of ghosts around, if you see what I mean. Because obviously there's the Kai, not that he's a ghost. I'm trying to...
I know what you mean.
There's a lot of shadows around, do you see what I mean, for him to be there, because there's a lot of memories. It's not like you can't just stop celebrating. Like if you split up with someone, it's done, you move on. But with Scott, and there's moments still, you're like you said 7 weeks ago, you were still trying to chase and sort stuff out for Scott. You know, so he's still living with that. So fair play to him, and he's probably a proper gent, you know.
Yeah, he is.
And you come with a few children as well.
Just a few.
You come with a few children as well.
Just a few, yeah.
So the man's a saint, if you ask me.
Don't pick him up anymore.
You give me that 25 quid later on, mate.
God's sake,
Yeah.
get home now.
Let's cut that bit out.
Cut that bit out. No, he offered me 25 quid to say
I thought so.
Bag of chips.
Yeah. Talking about sponsoring, I just want to say that this podcast and future podcasts have all been sponsored by who?
FB Chain.
FB Chain. Only one FB Chain in Letchworth. Amazing company, thank you very much. More to come on that as well very soon. Vikki, after hearing what we've heard today, I didn't cry.
You
that
didn't.
Doesn't
Well
mean
done.
I'm cold. It
means
I'm
so worried.
means I'm waiting for my wife cuddle later on.
Oh,
And I'll probably melt in her arms later. But I'm really happy that you're here fighting the good fight, and you're still standing, still smiling, you're still battling, you're still a great mum to your children, and now you've started to find love yet, or companionship, or
Can't say yet.
companionship. You've found somebody that makes you smile again, and we're really happy that we've heard that.
Thank you.
Especially after hearing the not so happy stuff that you've been through in your life.
I've got a lot to smile for. I've got amazing friends, I've got amazing children, and I've got so much to live for still, so...
That's good.
Yeah.
Before we go, and before that, we always get the guests to do something that they really feel uncomfortable doing.
God.
I want you to, in a minute, look in that camera there, the bottom camera, and for anybody that's watched this or will watch it on YouTube, for anybody that's suffered loss of a partner, loss of a child, or loss of any relative, give that person watching the advice on what's best to do and how to pull your socks up.
Your opinion,
how did you get through it? And
I mean, to advise anyone else, I wouldn't really know, because I wouldn't say all my ways are correct, but I got in the gym. I love the gym. If I feel rubbish, I'll just go in there and beat it out the bag, or run, or, you know, gym 100%, talking with my friends.
You've mentioned your friends a lot.
My friends are my family. I've made my own family, and I am so grateful to all of them. They're just, without them, I wouldn't be here.
You have mentioned your friends a lot, and I think having a strong network of friends is worth its weight in gold,
100%.
isn't it?
And you've just got to learn to enjoy life again. And I try not to think of what's happened. I try and live life for Kai.
Yeah.
So Kai liked dancing, I dance. Kai liked singing, he couldn't sing a note, I'll sing. I just enjoy life, and my children, if they can keep going, then I can keep going.
Yeah.
So that would be, that's exactly what you're just saying there, isn't it?
And you said it to us and not the camera. Damn. But no,
what you said.
yeah. Just have to try, and I'm not good at Photoshop, but turn your head that way. But no, I really appreciate you coming on, and
thanks for
to hear about how you rose above. You know, you rose above the turbulent times in your life. That's our motto, thriving in turbulent times.
Harold, if you're watching, mate, don't forget we've got to talk about tops.
Yeah. Yeah, we need new ones. These pink ones are out in my eyes. Is there anything that you want to ask us or speak about whilst your opportunity is?
No, not really. I just think we used to call Kai King Kai, because he was so lazy. So he'd expect like a red carpet rolled out and you just do everything for him.
Should have given him a bell.
Yeah, he was more than capable of doing some things, and he just was like, well, what's the point in that? So my biggest motto in life is to straighten your crown and keep on standing, because that's what he did.
Great motto.
Yeah.
Great motto.
And every time I eat McDonald's chips now, I'm going to think of Kai.
Yeah, exactly.
Other takeaways are available unless McDonald's want to sponsor
You're
us.
going to sponsor. Don't forget, we're open for sponsorship. And FB Chain, what you've done for us is going to allow us to go and get some equipment and one cut out every.
So kudos to you guys. I'm just going to, before we cut, I'm just going to go and check the Instagram live and see if we've had any feedback.
Yeah.
You're just going to be off.
No, you've had quite a few people in. Oh, jeez.
There you go.
Hi Lucy, if you're still there. Love to you, Vikki. Lucy Fletcher, so much love. Healthcare professionals and mainly government officials need to have a good look at how their system runs and actually start listening to family members more. That's from Clinty.
100%. I agree with that.
Clinty said that. Lucy O'Hare have said, you are such a strong and inspiring woman. But yeah, guys, we have been Rise Above, and he's Adrian, I'm Shane, and thank you so much to Vikki Hammond for coming on and discussing. Thank you very much to Jackman's Community Centre for letting us use this room.
Big love to Jackman's Community Centre.
And again, thank you very much to our sponsor, FB Chain. Thank you guys. Take care. See you on the next one.
There you go.
Done. That went quick, didn't it?
Hour and a half.
Yeah. That went well quick.
And I bet there's still bits that you like, I could have spoke about that, I could have spoken about that.
Oh yeah. It was 25